Awesome. Well, I'm really thrilled to have an amazing panel here that I get to introduce up. So I'll go to Srividya, Helen, Petra, and Jessica. If you guys could join me up on stage.
Thank you.
So it's going to be a bit of an interesting discussion here. It's 2025 still, just, and we can't have a panel discussion without diving deep into AI. So we're going to be talking a little bit about this today, but also in general, how we manage threats and kind of the new type of threats. So I kind of want to just dive straight into the deep end a little bit and start on the bleeding edge. We've seen a lot of innovation with AI and security. On the offensive side, we kind of have this new tool and threat, with kind of AI pen testing or offensive AI agents, agentic pen testing, some people call them. I wanted to kind of start with, what are you seeing in this environment as useful? What are you able to kind of see perhaps as a tool on the offensive side, but also potentially as a threat? So Jessica, I'll start with you. Are you seeing kind of movement interesting in this kind of AI offensive realm?
Absolutely. Also, just as a quick point, my views and my opinions are my own, not my employer. I have to say that at the beginning. But yeah, so for adversarial testing.
I want to say that too.
Okay. So you see, there's this new company, I think, that was leading the bug bounty boards. I think it was Expo, right? Where they were doing a lot of automated testing for that, and you saw them find some really interesting bugs that were like just very strange edge cases that normal people, normal researchers hadn't found yet, and they were making some really big impact on it, and I think that's really great. However, you also saw researchers that were using it that just flooded the bug bounty programs as well with very low fidelity, things that weren't fully validated or didn't really mean anything. So I think we're seeing this really interesting turning point where people are like, yes, we can really use it, and they can find some really interesting bugs. But some people are using it as a solution, not necessarily a tool, so they think it's an all-encompassing thing. So I think it's becoming very useful. I think it's getting smarter and smarter, and we've been seeing AI even at like DEF CON, the adversarial AI kind of coming in through. And I'm nervous as a blue teamer to see where this is going to go, because I think it is getting better and better.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a kind of a nervous thing, because you wonder where it's going to end up. It reminds me a little bit of chess, where one of the reasons you can tell when someone is cheating in chess is because their moves are very weird, like a human. And we kind of see the same thing in this kind of offensiveness. So Petra, I want to kind of move on to you. What have you kind of observed or seen in this space? Have you seen anything out there in the realms of kind of AI and the offensive side?
So one of the things that is kind of emerging more and more is because everyone is starting to use agents, right? And like we said, agents is not the same as, you just using ChatGPT. Agents can actually, do tasks, and they have access. So a way to ensure that your agents are secure is creating adversarial agents that will then, prompt your actual agent and make sure that they are kind of foolproof, that they won't do any ridiculous tasks that they don't need to do, that they will not have access where they shouldn't really have access. So a way that you can, utilize this is you can form your own offensive agent that then tests your actual agent. And then you can also use that information to create some guardrails in between.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's like using AI to test your AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're getting into an inception realm here, but I think that is that is like very, very, very interesting. One area that I'm very curious about, that I think AI has proven to have a great use case is kind of anomaly detection. So we have all these logs coming on about our environments, and we're seeing it. There's huge amounts of data in there, and we do have tools like SIEMs that can detect anomalies in this, but I feel like AI is going into a realm beyond that. So Helen, what do you kind of see in your work with kind of anomaly detection and being able to kind of get greater visibility into things potentially with AI? Is it useful? Is it not? What is your experience in that?
Yeah, I think for me, I've been in the security operations space in the last 9-10 years now, and I think how we handle incident response, security monitoring has kind of evolved over the years. I remember the first few years of my career, it's always like a very hard process to dictate the real incidents because you've got like lots of logs, lots of events on your SIM dashboard. But with AI, okay, so even though I don't kind of create AI agents myself personally, I know that lots of SIM tools, EDR tools now incorporate AI to their functionalities and features. And what I've seen is that it sort of kind of make my work easier as an analyst, or if I'm sitting on the analyst desk, for instance, rather than looking through loops of logs or alerts. And it's what AI does, does for me. It's kind of fine-tune all these alerts and kind of give me the real thing that I need to look at. So instead of me spending, say, 3 hours investigating a particular log or incident, it can just literally take me like 1 hour to do. Because with AI, it's already kind of give you like the baseline of what you need to look out for, what this host connects to, what action triggers a particular event. And I know people would be like, oh, is AI going to kind of take my job? I think no, it's not going to take our job as a SOC analyst or anyone in security operations space. It just kind of make me better and efficient at what I do. And also make me focus on the real alerts on the real threats, rather than just looking at logs here and there. So I think that's one thing I've seen in the security operation and incident response phase. And one other thing could be, I know Petra and Jessica talked about the offensive side of things. With adversarial AI, you could actually test a lot of things. So e.g., you are trying to build out a new SIM solution, a new SOC solution. You don't have to wait for an incident to happen before you know if your detection rules or custom alert rules are working. You could test this in advance using the adversarial AI and just, okay, what happened if there is a real attack from AI? How would your detection rules respond to this? So I think it's just evolve over there and make work easier and efficient for security analysts or security engineers in the security operations space. Yeah.
If I can just add one thing about anomaly detection, though, I think we have to be careful not to assume that LLMs are going to be better than machine learning and neural networks at it, because still, these days, those are the ones that do proper pattern recognition, and those are the ones that we can actually leverage for this. They use structured data, they have statistical explainability, we can actually test them with some proper metrics. Where AI and LLMs comes in is to help us determine the context of the findings of the machine learning algorithm findings, and then actually rule out the false positives and give us the true story. Because machine learning and neural networks, they're great at pattern recognition. However, anomalies sometimes are not real anomalies.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is where LLMs come in, building the context and kind of helping us rule out the false positives. But we'll still heavily rely on machine learning and neural networks for this specific task.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll even pile on further. Anomalies aren't real anomalies. Anomalies aren't necessarily malicious either. And so it might be out of the normal because you have a new hire come in and now accessing new things. So their account's doing things for the first time they've ever done. Yeah, they're a new hire. So just because it's anomalous doesn't make it malicious. And I think understanding the context and the intent is incredibly difficult. And I think it does require a human in the loop for a lot of that because it's hard to guess intent. So I would say you have to contextualize your anomalies more so than anything else. And if you don't do that, you're just going to flood your queue and make all of your analysts burn out because they're like, yes, not again, another anomaly. It's not, So I would say be careful because anomaly is not also malicious.
Yeah, and it's that promise of like AI is going to help us remove these false positives, but it's also adding kind of new abilities which create new false positives. And Petra, I just wanted to, I really loved what you said because I think that LLMs has kind of become a default word for AI, right? But there is so much more beyond that, and I guess it's because the LLM model is what we first used. ChatGPT was like the first use case where I was like, I can see AI working, but it's not the use case for everything. Yeah. Let's kind of go into understanding our threats in our environments. We have very big, complex systems and environments now. And I'm always curious to know, what are the tools that help us get visibility in these that are actually working for us? What ones give us the most? So, Sri, I want to start with you here. How do you kind of get visibility into your environments, and what tools kind of make up that architecture?
So basically, when you want to integrate some tools like SAST or DAST into your environment, starting it from the initial stage, be it strategizing, from build, integration, and the runtime, ensures that the issues or vulnerabilities are eliminated in the earlier stage. And once the code has been clear, when you run SAST and DAST, you can try to identify the main vulnerabilities that are present in the application, be it ingestions or any other sort of critical vulnerabilities that are being present. And when we merge each, I believe that the PR request, PR gating is also plays an important role, where when PR gating is done and it identifies any secrets or sensitive data, it will help you to stop or block the particular request getting merged from the master. So overall, it ensures that security is proactive, and you're able to secure the environment in a better way.
How do you make a decision for the PR gating of what gets blocked and what goes through? Because one of the issues when we gate anything is that we can frustrate our engineers a lot. So kind of what strategies have you is there kind of like a threshold that something has to meet before you block it, or do you find the strategy of, block first, and then review?
Block first and then review it, because sometimes, most of the time, when developers build or try to merge, most of the time we tend to add keys, or keys are the main part that is being present in the code. So once all the PI data, so in these aspects, it immediately blocks before it has been resolved. No merges can happen into the master until it's rectified. So that gives us the proactive approach to the.
Yeah, and especially for something like keys and API keys and that. When you look at a breach when it happens, initial access may have come through a phishing campaign. Initial access may have come through something. But when everything goes wrong, it's because they found a key. Usually, that's good. What other tools and strategies are the rest of you using, Helena?
Yeah, I think just adding to what Sri said. I know we have the SAST tool, we have the DAST tool, and we have security gates built in. And I know a lot of people are doing shift-left approach, where you kind of embed SAST and DAST into some of your critical components, depending on your risk. I mean, it's most like a risk-based approach. And also from the security operations side, don't mind me, I'm just more security operations side. EDR2 is very crucial. And I think it also depends on the size of your organization. So I would give an instance for my organization. We are a small team, and I know there are tools that kind of oversee end-to-end security landscape of your technology. So, CSPM tool, do you have your EDR tool, the SaaS tool, the API security gates? And some tools could actually give you like an holistic overview of how your endpoints or our infrastructure connects to each other. I know Aikido, I know Wiz, not just I know because I use some of these tools, and depending on how large your tool, your company is, or your security operations space is, you might want to have like a tool that could see end to end of your code base, of your infrastructure, which is cloud, and also of your endpoints at the enterprise side. And you were given an instance of a phishing attack. Someone clicks on a phishing link, and you could see how this connects and how they all links together, and it just kind of make detection and response very easy. So, yeah, CSPM, EDR, CWPM, and your SaaS and DAST, and maybe API security. So that's right.
Yeah, Petra.
If I can also add, if you're lucky enough that you're in a really mature company with a mature team, and you manage to cover all your services with a threat model, then you can also base your gates on your threat model, because not every single application, not every single repo, not every single feature has the same risk, and you can assess that very well with a threat model and base your gates on that.
Yeah, Jessica.
So I'll pile on, and I think this is a great place for LLMs, right? So if you have a threat model and you've made it, feed it to your LLM. Let it learn on it, feed it your code, and have it understand, right? It's gonna understand, hopefully, with decently high fidelity, what is this PR trying to do, right? Or where is this PR trying to deploy, or kind of what logs are we having? And it can base it against your threat model and give you at least some kind of starting point of like, should we gate this or not? Or are they just changing the color of a button? Because I probably don't want to gate that. But use LLMs in the sense of being able to summarize things and join together multiple sources of data.
You can also use an LLM to do your threat model.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, with man in the loop.
Yeah, somebody review that.
Someone in the loop, yeah.
Let's dive into threat models then, seeing as it's come up. Threat modeling is like one of my favorite tools to use, and it also can be a lot of fun when we use it. There's some frameworks that help us with that. There's Stride, there's the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You can also use the OWASP Top 10. So, Petra, seeing as you bring this up, what frameworks do you find are best to kind of build, or how do you build out a threat model against your infrastructure? Where do you start? This is my first threat model I've ever tried to do. I have my developers in the room. Like, where do we start with trying to threat model an application?
So I'm really happy you asked me that question, because I'm super passionate about threat modeling. I do a ton of work on that. Where do you start? Yes, you can start with Stride, but you must not forget threat modeling should be a brainstorming. So if you have a good facilitator, that facilitator can actually make sure that that's what happens in the room. If no one did threat modeling in the room ever before, then you can always go back to Adam Shostak, one of the big names in threat modeling. You can mention, what are we building? What can go wrong? Have we done a good job? So yeah, those are one of the things that you can start with, and then you can build on that with Stride. But we must always not try and make threat modeling a checklist, because then, like you said, it takes the fun out of it, but it also limits us and puts us in a box, and we might not be able to discover all the threats. I heard one smart person once say that all methodologies are crutches, and we should consider whether we should actually be using those crutches.
Yeah. And threat modeling is kind of, it's a creative exercise. And as soon as you put a checklist in front of you, it becomes kind of a governance type exercise almost,
Yeah.
We have a question on the Slido, so please feel free to add questions. And this one is about prompt injection. So the question is, how do you defend against prompt injections to exfiltrate your data? So prompt injection is kind of like a new area where we have these LLMs that often get fed lots of, or trained on, if we're using internal LLMs, sensitive information, perhaps they've got access to our code, and we can use prompt injection to access it. So is this something that you all are actively thinking about, and what strategies do you have in place to defend against new attacks like prompt injection? Does anyone feel brave to kind of start? Jessica.
I'll start, yeah. This keeps me up at night, right? As an incident responder, it's probably only a matter of time before I have to deal with this. My first question would be does your LLM that would be customer facing, that's going to have an attacker be able to access it, why does it need access to your internal data? First off, right? Like, let's start there. Like, should you have something that is able to retrieve internal data? And then you got to think about, too, like, can you have, usually you have like a system prompt, and then you have the user prompt, and you can have in between kind of the two an additional LLM to kind of be a judge, right, of saying, is this something that's actually scary? Is this got kind of our keywords? And that judge should not have any ability to be influenced by the end user. And so I guess number one thing is, should that actually even have your data? Or if you're doing it internally, like, are you going to give it access to all of your Google Drive? Are you going to give it access to all your PII? Are you going to give, this internal thing access to all your databases? Like, does it need it? Like, good. Like, ask yourself that first. And if it does need it, how many ways can you kind of gate in between? And you can have LLM judges kind of sit in between to say this is a good or a bad idea, or help gate it. And then so you can have the judge sitting between the user to the system prompt, or you can have it for the return of it as well, of just saying, okay, now that we've gotten the data and the answer, judge it if this contains something that might be PII before actually communicating it back to the user, and then log everything in between so that when PII comes out, you can see what triggered that prompt to give it that. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's still the same thing that happens even before AI.
Yeah.
I mean, there is always someone who would review and someone who would approve. Yeah. So I know LLM AI, it's like the buzzword, like now, but I think in the technical or technology space, we shouldn't rely on LLM fully, because when they make mistake, it's going to cost us like huge efforts to rectify it. So there should always be like a human oversight in between. And just like what Jessica said, what kind of access do you want to give your LLM? You know, I mean, is it external facing and internal facing? So everything we do humanly, like what we do as a person, is what we are still trying to replicate in using LLM. We are not trying to fully dedicate all our responsibility to them. I mean, to LLM, we are just trying to make it efficient and, you know, for our own use. So
Yeah.
So adding to her point again, prompt ingestions are usually in finance apping or mobile banking apps, usually comes in chat help desk, where you have an option to type in your chat with the agent. So when it's reaching the agent for a response, you would have to eliminate the criticality tags that has been present. So that would ensure that the link is not accessible in a hyperlink format. So when you click, the prompt is not prompted or redirected to the website that they are designed to. So when you're able to disable the functionalities that is being coded for the ingestions, I think you are in a way safer with the apps to ensure that the prompt ingestions are not triggered when it is being clicked.
Yeah, going back to some of the points here is that, you know, should these things have access to your data and internal things. I feel like we're ending up in a world where we may be creating these internal LLM systems to help us in a similar way that we used to create kind of backdoors into our applications to be able to do it. I was doing a pen test once and I found an application literally called a freaking ninja with lasers coming out of his eyes, and it was like an ultimate black door that a developer had left in there. You know, and this could be where we end up there. We have some more questions in here, so let's go into that. The hard part about having different tools, SAS, DAST, SCA, dependency scanning, license infringement, etc. Why is there not a single tool for this? I'm laughing because I won't say anything, but you can go you can go in there. But let's go. A lot of these tools are fragmented. What are some of the strategies in kind of bringing these all together and understanding them? And because, you know, there is a category of best of breed tools that we have. Then there's kind of like holistic tools that we have. What strategies do you have that you can bring these together and understand about it?
So without also mentioning names, there is tools out there for this, and usually they're called ASPMs, you know, Application Security Posture Management Tools, and they do exactly that. They bring it all together. A lot of CSPMs, Cloud Security Posture Management Tools, started doing that too. They also, you know, CSPMs now want to be also ASPMs, and ASPMs want to be CSPMs. So there is tools for that, and there's really some good tools in the market. This market is really booming, and you can actually use these tools because not only they bring all this together, they help you provide the context, they help you provide, you know, additional metadata that will help you prioritize. So definitely I would say go out and have a look, because these tools are super useful to help, you know, minimize the noise that your security engineers are suffering from, and your developers and your DevOps engineers.
Also, adding to Petra's point, I think there are a lot of tools available for multi-cloud platform as well, which can check CSPM, CIEM, workload protection all together. So, and it's all in one panel list. There's no need you to have a different kind of dashboards to have check on policies or the roles of IAM being not configured. So all in one. So that helps you to again fastly respond to the directions that are being there on the tools that are being present for the detection.
And one thing that I love about having an all-in-one tool, again, I won't name any names, but part of it is that when you introduce a SAST with an SCA tool, so looking for code vulnerabilities and dependency vulnerabilities, if the SAST can feed information about what functions are being used, they can also eliminate vulnerabilities from the SCA that aren't actually real threats. But what I kind of want to let's have a little bit of a fun game here. We have a whole bunch of tools. Tools create a whole bunch of noise. If you could kind of pick one that provides the most amount of value, I'm going to limit you all to one type of tool. What would you implement, or what would you implement first into your environment? You know, a category of tool, and it could be even left field. It could be a framework. It could be threat modeling. But what would you implement? Jessica, we'll start with you and we'll go down.
Okay.
You have one tool.
Because I do detection and response engineering, I'm going to focus it on that and say an endpoint detection and response tool. Whether that be for cloud, there's a few options there, whether open source or paid, or corporate environments, because I want to know what's happening in my environment and being able to track that. So I'm going to go with an EDR.
EDR is definitely the first thing, but then your second place that you need to kind of look for visibility is your cloud. So I would say the CSPMs that actually also want to be ASPM, so you get a whole little bundle in one.
I feel like that's cheating a little bit, but I'll accept it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with EDR. And EDR because at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to write your code, you need to use your device endpoint. You're working with users, right? So even before you think of CSPM, CWP, SAST, DAST, and the likes, you want to ensure that the users who work on these products or this code are well protected, or the device that they use are protected. So even if I thought you're starting a new company today and, you know, a lot of security tools out there, I think one thing you should focus on is the EDR tool. And I'm thinking the EDR tool has some like phishing, anti-phishing capabilities in place. Otherwise, then you have to look at your user awareness training first before EDR. So, yeah.
I think I'll go along with Petra's point, because I believe in the same, as we have, our environment is mostly into cloud and API and microservices. So I think along with EDR, having a check on CSPM, CIEM is also crucial. Also important to have work around, and again, mitigating the issues faster helps you with cloud and C.
Yeah, I think all good answers. I think it was an impossible question, so But there's a question in here that's about AI coding, and specifically the pace and volume of AI coding. So we're introducing tools like Claude Code, or maybe we're using like Cursor with Claude, or OpenAI, or these various different tools that help us. Maybe we're even using Lovable or something that creates a full app. How are you guys dealing with the added volume that is coming into your code repositories right now? Are these creating more noise? Are these helpful, you know, from a security point of view? How are you dealing with that? Jessica, I see you nodding. Let's start down there.
Yeah. No, I can start because I bicker with the AI all the time when it comes to my code, because I think I know what I'm doing. It thinks it knows what it's doing. We both don't know what's going on at any given point. I would say it's hard. I think that you're going to introduce more security vulnerabilities because it's, you know, the LLM is going to be trained on a multitude of code. And you had this problem with Stack Overflow as well, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm just going to go and copy code from the internet and not understand what it's doing. Instead of copying it from the internet, I'm copying it from the AI that got it from the internet, right? And so we continue, and then I don't understand the code. Then the PR person, or the person reviewing my code, may or may not understand it. And so I think it's interesting. I like to treat the LLM that's helping me code as an intern. It doesn't know a whole lot. It still needs a senior engineer to go in and review that code and understand that code and understand where it needs to be overly complicated and where it needs to be simplified. So I think it's a great tool, but I am still nervous about production-ready code being generated from an LLM without major oversight. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people kind of in industry want to say, oh, well, all of our code is going to be, generated that way. And that scares me, again, as an incident responder, because when that vulnerability comes through, that's my problem.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And if I can add, one of the things that we can do is, again, going to inception, is utilize AI versus AI, because there is emerging code comprehension tools out there that can actually do, PR reviews instead of us to actually check that code for vulnerabilities on top of the, classic, SAST, SEA, and all the other testing that we do.
Yeah. Helen?
Yeah, I think what came to my mind when Jessica and Petra were talking is, in as much as AI helps with code generation and the likes, I think we need to have like a security baseline or policies in place that we communicate with our engineers. So for instance, if you have like, if the infrastructure, the way you write your code, if you have like the infrastructure in place, if everyone could follow the policies that you've defined in terms of security, I think that would just eliminate you copying and paste AI-generated code into your library or into your code snippets, right? So one thing I would say is we need to have like a, what kind of security policies or prototype do you want to follow while you write your code? And everyone could build on that regardless of if AI is helping you to write code or not. And there is always a place of QA. We can't eliminate our QA engineers in this case. Why they also use, like, from what Petra said, AI, using AI against AI, I think having a QA security engineer also reviewing this, maybe not like manually doing everything from code line 1 to like line 1000, but with the help of AI, I think that would also reduces any risk that might just come up as a result of AI-generated code.
Yeah. And Sri, are you using AI-generated code, and are you noticing it?
We are not currently using any AI, but we might come up with AI-based assessments in the future, maybe in a couple of months. So I have nothing much to say on AI.
Well, what led you to the decision to kind of not use AI? Because I think this is interesting, where a lot of people kind of feel pressure from hype to kind of go down this. Did you feel pushback against that decision to kind of use AI, to not allow AI code in there, and why make that decision in the first place?
There's no specific reason why not. But then, yeah. I think we are still fine with the infrastructure we have, and we are well secured with most of the vulnerabilities and detection with the incident response. So for now, we have not planned, but we are on this verge of implementing AI for the code analysis, basically. So it makes the developers' task easier, and yeah. Sometimes during the pen test, you tend to get a lot of vulnerabilities that you never thought it is. Yeah. So when you perform an external pen test, so that's the reason we thought for the code analysis, it's better we have an AI, and yeah, that's where we are planning to implement.
Yeah. There's a question here that kind of got shot up to the top, which is, how do you defend against the recent high-profile NPM supply chain attacks? And have you introduced new tools for this? So this is an interesting question. So I'm on the research team that first discovered the major one of debug and chalk, where a developer named Josh Junon got phished. He was kind enough to come on a podcast with me to discuss that. How does that keep you up at night? Because this was like, I'll be honest, when we first discovered this, I made a LinkedIn post that was later teased a lot, because I literally thought the internet was going to blow up that morning. The internet didn't blow up for various reasons. But does this keep you up at night? And what tools are you implementing to be able to kind of, to kind of go against these supply chain attacks that are coming up that you almost feel helpless against sometimes, or at least sometimes I do. So again, Jessica, I'll start down the end with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very hard. Like, supply chain attacks are particularly scary because you have your well-guarded area but everyone uses some kind of third party, and you just hope for the best when it comes to a third party, right? I think, so, Helen mentioned earlier about setting good security posture and setting good policies. Like, how much can you take away from the developer of having to think about difficulties like that? Like, can you standardize the libraries that you use? Can you pin to specific versions and hashes of those libraries that you're using for like NPM packages or whatnot? Or are you always just pulling from latest, and then you're kind of just hoping for the best that the latest is not malware, or when it is, the next latest will fix that, right? And so if you can really set yourself to kind of a baseline and put that not on the developer, put that on your security team. They're the ones who are focused on security. Your developer's just trying to go fast. Put as many things in place that help your developers, and let them continue going as quickly as possible. Would be my opinion on the supply chain attack.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that I just thinking about. I mean, we've got lots of security incidents this year. I mean, on SaaS retailers like M&S and the likes, and NPM supply chain attacks. I'm talking from the governance side of things and not going to the technical aspects of things. One thing I think we have done in our organization is looking at the trend of these cyber incidents and the likes. We all know that the foundation is social engineering, phishing. Have you kind of done like a tabletop exercise in your organization, simulating this kind of attack? So I know there are lots of incidents. You can just choose one that is more of a priority to you. So for instance, if you have like your IT, external party for your IT, you might want to simulate the same scenario that happened with the retailers in the UK. Or if you think you are more affected with this NPM supply chain tool, you could just like, okay, what if something like this happened again in the future? How do we respond to this? Because then when this NPM tool attack happened, I was like, who do I even contact? Should I talk to my front-end engineer or back-end engineer or this and that? So I was just kind of moving, around the circle and, keep pointing, meet this and this. By the end of the day, we were able to kind of get to the root cause. But if actually we have done like, run like a table salt exercise, saying if there's a supply chain attack in this scenario, who do we talk to? I think it should have just been easier for us to kind of, get everything on track within minutes or within 30 minutes, right? Rather than spending 1 hour saying, how does this affect us? So I think it depends on what you think is important to you in your organization. But I would just say, try to simulate like a tabletop exercise based on the security event that happened in this year, and see how your team will respond to it. I think that would also help. And in terms of tools that detected this, I think we didn't implement any other tool. We still kind of rely on the application security ASPM tool, APSM tool, what do you call it? Although we don't have that, we have like a SaaS, SC tool. We still rely on it. And what we could only do is like, can we fine tune it to ensure that it's dictated this kind of alerts? And one thing I also know that, so for instance, whichever vendor you are using would definitely reach out to you and say, to check if you're affected, can you run this code or, in your repository to see that? But other than that, I think we need to go back to the governance part and ensure that we understand how our incident response process and how we escalate incidents of such in our organization.
So adding to Helen's point, I think and Jessica's point, when security engineers are dedicated for identifying the issues with respect to libraries or packages, it's also important for you to cross-verify with your internal inventory of assets that you have to prioritize what is critical. And based on that, you might have to move forward with your developers to fix them, because those are the main components that would get affected first. Suppose you have you use an API or an endpoint that is of third party and not very much in use with the application, or just triggering end to end, or triggers any other endpoint with this. So it doesn't make much of a serious issue. But then if it's a critical aspect where it is fetching you from maybe from your database or something, then that library becomes something more important. So always prioritizing which is more important it's been done with the inventory list, and then passing on to developers would make it more sensible for the mitigation of issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that we can do to help developers as well to kind of choose the right building blocks is mature companies have these things called paved roads. So essentially, companies like Netflix, essentially, the security team works with the engineering team to choose the, repeatable, reusable pieces of code that, we can create internal libraries from, and that developer can utilize internally over and over again in a secure way, that are proven to be secure, that are threat models, that passed all the tests. So that's also one way to approach it and take the responsibility away from the developers, like Jessica mentioned.
Yeah, and I think I love some of these because it's a little bit unfunctional in the sense that it's not just relying on tools. It's also about having the processes, especially as Helen, in place to do it. Because when we look at the supply chain attacks, like the one with debug and Chaunt and anti-styles that happened from just Junon's projects, they were only active for 2 hours, the malware, yet in that time, with the report that they found that the malware inside 90% of their cloud environments. So within those 2 hours, I mean, this was a very big attack, but it had propagated that far. There's some nuance there. It doesn't mean that every cloud instance is there, but it just means that per account they found it. But how do you respond in those 2 hours? And I think that's what's important, that it may not be that your SCA tool will pick it up, but you have to be able to know, okay, here is the package version. How do I know if I have this in my infrastructure? And I think that was a really great point to go into that. Where phishing was kind of mentioned in this, and that was ultimately, the internet almost exploded because one person was phished. He was on his way to a doctor's appointment when he was. So that's kind of, this perfect storm of situations that happened. Phishing used to be much harder much easier to kind of detect because it was misspelt names. It was, hey, I'm your CEO. Can you call me? I'm in a conference. Now we're kind of in a realm with LLMs where you can just put a whole bunch of information about a company, about a person, and it spit out a perfect kind of phishing email for you. How are you dealing with this threat of phishing attacks kind of in your organizations? Because ultimately, we can talk about all the fancy things that are happening in our world. We've mentioned secrets, we've mentioned phishing. These are still the two most common ways that we actually kind of get infiltrated. So Jessica, you're always in my line of sight, so I'm always kind of starting with you. I should mix it up, but I'm going to start with you again.
Yeah, I mean, phishing is one of the most common ways to get in, and now it's not even just an email, but with deepfake. They can call you and sound like your manager. They can go on a Zoom call and look like your manager. Like, oh God, what's happening now? Training. I think training the employees and teaching them it's okay to reach out even if you did get phished, right? It's going to happen to us. That's okay. Talk to us about it. Tell us what happened so that we can prevent the next person. So I think awareness campaigns are kind of number one. It is going to happen to you. Every one of us are going to receive a phish, and some of us are going to click on the link, right? Train people about it. And then I'll just leave with defense in depth, and then I'm sure somebody's going to mention that too, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is tools out there that are used for phishing, whether it's, tools that detect some kind of anomalies, or even Google Workspace itself will kick out some spam, and it's getting better and better. The more AI is getting better in creating those phishing emails, the better the response to it is as well, because vendors are keeping up. So there is still tools out there that on top of people you can use and help yourself with the phishing threat. Yeah, and adding to what you both said, I think run a phishing security campaign. It's very important. I mean, hacks like AI, bad guys as well, and push out security campaigns to your employees. And one thing I used to tell them is, if you click on a phishing link, it happens to the best of us, right? Because it's happened to me several times, even I was on that run the phishing campaign, because I don't know what exactly would get to me, and I click on it. It happens to the best of us, so there is no stupid answer in information security, and there is no patch to human stupidity, right, or to human intelligence or anything. So phishing campaign is very important, and once they click, I mean, of course, you get reports on your dashboard. Don't make them feel
like, oh, what have you done? Let them know that, yeah, I've done this as well. And I think overall, you kind of just improve the security culture in the organization. I think that's the most important thing, the mindset, right? And yeah, training on deepfake, AI, this and that, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes even updating your employees with the latest attacks that's happening, or maybe every month you give an update on how the phishing attacks have occurred throughout the world. So the top countries you pick up who are very famous, and then in the best phishing attacks, you train them and you tell this is how it has happened, and that gives a lot of confidence for the person who's trying to click and phishing email. Even if you click, they report it as a phishing. So you are aware on what were the aspects. And now there are a lot of tools that are coming up for email security, behavior analysis. So all that will help you in having a better non-phished environment.
Yeah. We are running out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But I really appreciate you guys all bringing your insights here. So can we please give it up for our great panelists one more time? And yeah.
Good stuff. And thanks to our moderator, Mackenzie.
Oh.